Welcome to lesson 3-3. Now we get to learn how to add and subtract decimals. So here are your goals today. Students will be able to add and subtract decimals. Students will be able to explain the steps to adding and subtracting decimals. And students will be able to add and subtract decimals using a diagram. All right, so here's your strategy stretcher. This is in your packet. So go ahead and later on you'll complete this. Alan bought a box of envelopes for $2.79 and a pack of paper for $4.50. Then he paid with a $10 bill. How much change should he receive? So work hard to strive for 5 on that one later on. You can do it now or you can do it after the video. All right, let's start off with, again, showing what it looks like with a diagram so we really understand in our heads what's going on when we add decimals and subtract. Remember that the hundreds grid now is worth 1 whole. That 1 row is 1/10 and a square is 100th. So you are going to actually have some decimal grids. You're going to watch me do a couple, and then there's some that you're going to do with the video here. All right, so use a decimal grid to find each sum. Remember, sum is an addition problem. 24 hundredths plus 32 hundredths. So what we're really doing here is saying, okay, I have 24 hundredths, so I shaded that blue. I'm going to add to that another 32 hundredths or another 32 little hundredths squares. What we want to know then is how much do I have in all? Well, if I combine these together, you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of tenths, and then I've got 6 hundredths. So my answer is going to be 56 hundredths. So if I ate 24 hundredths of the brownie pan and then I ate another 32 hundredths, that means I've eaten 56 hundredths total. All right, let's look at B. I have 1 and 56 hundredths brownies shaded in blue. Then I got 4/10 more of a pan and I shaded that in green. So then the question is, what do I have now? Well, you can see I have 1 whole. You can see that I've got 9/10 are completely filled up. And then I've got another 6 hundredths. So my answer would be 1 and 96 hundredths. For C, I have 75 hundredths plus 68 hundredths. So first I shaded in 75 hundredths in blue. Then I shaded in another 68 hundredths in purple. Notice I filled up a hole and had to keep going. So what do I have all together? Well, I have 1 whole grid. I've got 4/10, and then I've got 3 hundredths. So 1 and 43 hundredths. All right, so let's take a look and let's try to shade in these 2 squares right here. Okay, I'm going to pull up my highlighters for this. So we're going to do 2/10 plus 18 hundredths. So I'm going to take one color and I'm going to shade in 1 and 2/10 in my first color. Now in my next color, I'm going to shade in 18 hundredths. I could also look at that as shading in 1/10 and then 8 little squares or 8 hundredths. So then the question is, how much do I have all together now? Well, I don't have a whole. I do have some tenths. I have 1, 2, 3/10, and then I've got 8 hundredths. So my answer would be 38 hundredths. I also want to show you quick how you might do this on a number line. So if this is 1, then if I divide that into 10, each of these is a tenth. So this is 1/10 on my number line. This is 2/10. This is 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then this would be 1 and 1/10, 1 and 2/10, etc., all the way to 2. On a number line, we would show first what we have. So I would go ahead and put a dot on I have 2/10. And then I add to that another 1/10 and 8 hundredths. So I'd skip ahead my 1/10. That brings me to 3/10. And now each of these tiny, tiny little guys is a hundredth because it's 10 divided by 10. And so I would go about 8 of those. And then where did I land? I landed at 3/10 and another 8 hundredths. So that's just a quick look at how this might look on a number line. All right, you're going to try these on the grids. Ideally, if you could have two different colored crayons or colored pencils. If not, if you only have a pencil, try to show it different ways. Maybe shade the first number really dark and the next one really light and see what you can do. Let's do the first one together here. All right, so first I'm going to show 8/10. So 1, 2, 3, and you can do this with me. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I start by shading 8/10. And it looks like I'm going to need more than a whole, so I'm just going to borrow this guy for a second. Now we need to add to it 32 hundredths. So I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to start with my tenths. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 tenths. Now let's add those 2 hundredths. 1, 2. So let's look at what we have all together. I have 1 whole, I have 1 in the tenths place, and I have 2 hundredths. So 8/10 plus 32 hundredths is going to be 1 and 12 hundredths. All right, let's go ahead and try the... All right, so let's try this next one. I'm going to erase these and use this again. I'll just pull these down here. Okay, so the first one we've got 75 hundredths. So I'm going to pull up my highlighter, and I'm going to start by shading 7/10 and 5 hundredths. 1, 2, again, you're doing this with me. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we need to do 5 hundredths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and whoops, I did too much. 5. Okay. Now we need to add another 16 hundredths. Now this time it's kind of a little goofy here. So I'll show you how we can do that. I'm going to, well, let's do this. Let's do the tenths first. Let's shade this whole row. I think this will work best. Go to your next blank row and start shading in your tenths. Now I'm going to go back and shade in the 6 hundredths right here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That finishes that row, but then 6 over here. So now I can see what it looks like all together. And I can see that I have 9 hundredths and, I'm sorry, 9 tenths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1 hundredth. All right, go ahead and try this one on your own. So shade in 1 and 23 hundredths with one color, and then add on to that another 55 hundredths and see what you have all together. So go ahead and pause. All right, so you can see I shaded in 1 and 23 hundredths green and then 55 hundredths in yellow. So I did my 5/10 and then let's see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we need to see what do we have all together. So in this case, I have 1 whole pan of brownies. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths that are completely colored in. And then you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hundredths left over. So that's what you should have gotten. All right, now how about subtraction? Here what we'll do is the first number, remember when we subtract, tells us what we have. Then the next number is what we take away. So you're going to shade in the first number, then you're just going to cross out however much we're taking away, and you're going to see what's left. So in this example, we shaded 6/10 green. They crossed out 3/10, 3 rows of 10, and they crossed out 8 hundredths. And then you can see what's left, and that's going to be our answer. So we have 2/10 left and 2 hundredths left, or 22 hundredths. In this example, they shaded in 1 and 22 hundredths red. Then they crossed out 4/10 and 1 hundredth. And then 0.81, 81 hundredths is what you have left that's not crossed out. So let's go ahead and try that. So how would we shade the decimal to represent 1 and 3/10 minus 6/10? All right, well, let's go to our highlighter. I'm going to shade in this whole square. Oops. So I have 1 whole, and then I have another 3/10. So this is how I would shade 1 and 3/10. Now I'm just going to take my pencil and cross out 6/10. So that's a row. So I'm just going to cross out 1/10, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So our answer is we're going to look at how many tenths do we have left. Okay, well I can see that I have 7/10 remaining, so my answer is going to be 7/10. All right, let's try that on these grids right here. So go ahead if you want to pause it, do what you can, and unpause it, feel free to do that. All right, so we're going to start with shading in 8/10. That's going to be 8 out of our 10 rows. All right, now we're taking away, subtraction is taking away 3/10 and 2/100. So I'm going to start with taking away the 3/10. Minus 1/10, minus 2/10, and minus 3. Now let's take away the 2/100. Just cross those out. And then what do we have left? 1, 2, 3. We have 4/10 left. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8/100 left. So our answer is going to be 48/100. Let's try the next one. So we're going to shade in 95/100 right here. So that's 9/10 and another 5/100. And then we're going to take away 8/10. So again, I'll just start on this side this time. Minus 1/10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we look at what we have left. I have 1/10 left, and I have 5/100 left. So our answer is 15/100. All right, so again, pause, try this one, and then unpause. All right, let's take a look. So you can see first in yellow, I shaded 1 and 72/100. Then I'm going to take away 1 whole, so I crossed out just the whole thing. Now I need to take away a 10th, so I crossed out this 10th. And now I need to take away 2/100, so I crossed out 2 of those. Oh, you know what? And I made a little mistake here. Let's get back to this. I missed one. When I did 1 and 72/100, there should have been 2 here, which means I would have crossed out these 2. And this one is still good. So I'll cross out my X. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so what do I have left is the question. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole tenths left over. So that is going to be my answer. All right, well, you're not going to draw a picture every time, but I did want you to understand what we're doing when we add and subtract decimals. So let's try it without a diagram. You're going to go ahead and do this T-chart on your notes. So here we go. What we noticed with our diagrams is it's really important that you add and subtract the correct place value. So you have to take away tenths from tenths, you have to add ones with ones, etc., just like we do when we're doing normal addition. So we want to get the place values lined up, just like if I'm adding whole numbers. So how do we do that? Well, the easiest way is to line up your decimals. So here's how we want you to set up every single problem. You're going to do decimal, decimal, line, decimal, add, or subtract. Every time you have a problem, I want decimal, decimal, line, decimal, add, or subtract. Then once you've done that and all your decimals are lined up, now you're going to place in these numbers. So we'll put 8.923 and then place this one 11.03. Now we don't want blanks, so we want to have the same number of digits after the decimal in all our numbers. So let's put in a 0 as a place value. That does not change the value of the number. Once you're lined up and you have the same number of digits after the decimal, now you just add like you normally would. 3 plus 0 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 9 plus 0 is 9, 8 plus 1 is 9, and 0 plus 1 is 1. So there is your answer. Notice that the decimal was already in the right spot because that's the biggest mistake people make. So how do we explain this in steps? You are going to write decimal, decimal. Whoops, let's do it this way. You're going to write decimal, decimal, line, decimal, and then either add or subtract depending on what kind of problem you're doing. Then you're going to put in your numbers, okay? And then you're just going to add or subtract like you normally would.